Welcome to Earthbit. In this video we are replacing the housing of this iPhone 11, and this video applies to the iPhone 12 as well. This device has damage on the frame and on the back glass. Replacing the housing or frame of this device is not easy. Doing this repair, your iPhone will look like new. We will start by removing the screws at the bottom of the device and start to hit the display. Since this video is focused mainly on the replacement of the housing, I'm going to go fast in removing the screen of the device. If you need a screen replacement video for your iPhone, check the link into the description. I've already covered that. These iPhone batteries are really soft. If you use any kind of metal tool, you risk to puncture the battery and you will need to replace it. Removing the battery is not difficult. You just need to pull the sticky tape that are under the battery, and then you will be able to remove the battery instantly. You can also use a little bit of alcohol to soften the glue if you do not see the piece of tape that you need to pull in order to remove the whole tape. We will start by disconnecting all the flex cables attached to the upper portion of the motherboard. You will need to remove two screws holding the camera's retaining plate, and then you have access to the camera and remove it. After the rear cameras, we need to remove the front cameras, and be careful while removing this. If it gets damaged, your Face ID is gone. Next, disconnect the wireless charging flex cables and any other flex cable in that area. Push all the flex cable away, and we are going to remove the screws holding the SIM card module. Remove your SIM card tray and remove the SIM card module. We have removed the first layer of flex cable attached to the motherboard at the top. Use your flat tool to carefully disconnect the flex cable, the remaining flex cable attached to the motherboard. We just disconnected two additional flex cables, and the motherboard is free to remove. The motherboard out, we have completed 1/3 of this repair. We need to attack the bottom portion of the device in order to remove everything that is installed in that area. You will need to remove all the screws that you see. Be mindful that you will need 2 or 3 different screwdrivers in order to remove everything that has been screwed at the bottom of the device. Also, while doing this part, take a picture of everything before you start to remove stuff, because if you get confused, you can always look at the picture and see where everything was before you started to remove the screws. Another advice that I can give you is to be prepared to organize all your screws, because it can get mixed up really quick. Charging module is out. We have completed 2/3 of the repair. You just need to repeat what you just did in reverse order. Having to deal with all these small screws is what makes this repair very difficult and time consuming. This device needed a new speaker, so I have removed the old speaker and installed a new one. After the installation of the speaker, add the retaining screws and then install the haptic engine or vibrating motor. We are removing the small component at the edge of the device in order to transfer them into the new housing. So at this time we are doing the bottom portion of the device and anything that is on the edge of this device. Add all the small components that you've removed near the charging module and start to apply all the screws. If you've organized your screws well, this part should be very easy. It's just a matter of adding the screws. So the bottom portion of the housing has been complete. Everything has been screwed in and we are ready to move to the next part. Reinstall all these small pieces of component onto the new housing. The next part is removing everything that is at the top of the device in order to transfer them onto the new housing. Here also we have quite a lot of screws, so you need to organize everything that you removed out of the device. This is one big piece. It has the buttons, the volume up, volume down, and the vibrating button. All these is attached to the big flex cable that you see. We have successfully removed the top portion of the flex cable and we are going to reinstall it into the new housing. This piece has a little bit of glue, So press it in and add the screws that you removed earlier. After the reinstallation of the screws, you need to remove the screws holding the buttons, and you need to carefully pry it out because it is a really thin flex cable, so extra caution while removing this piece. If you like these repair videos, subscribe to our channel, give us a like, and share our content to the world. The physical button added, start to install the flex cables that has the button. You need to have the vibrating button in order to insert it in first, and then apply some pressure for it to stick into the frame of the device. After installation of the button flex cable, you need to add the screws. The reinstallation of the button is not done, but I'm adding the screws right now to avoid having these screws mixed up with something else. In a few minutes, I'm going to complete the installation of the buttons. You need to remove something in the old housing in order for the button to work in the new housing. Like this, the button do not touch the flex cables. Add all the screws that you've removed. Here we are working on the power button. So you need to remove all the screws that are attached to the flex cable that goes onto the power button. Check the link into the description for the tools and part that you need to complete this repair. I also have a link into the description for the back glass replacement only. If you don't need to replace the frame, check that video. We have removed the component that makes the flashlight work. Let's go and reinstall that onto the new housing. Make sure that the flashlight sits flush and sit all the way inside the circle. After that, remove the other flex cable that is attached to the home button and add all the screws that you've removed. You see, this is where we are so far. It's almost done. So earlier I was saying the home button and the buttons were not done because you need to reinstall something, a small piece of aluminum that will make contact with the physical button and the flex cables. After installation of that small component that goes inside the slot for the button, you need to apply all the screws. After installation of the screws, test the button and you should hear some clicks. So this is the small piece of component that you need to remove on the old housing and transfer into the new housing. You need to insert that piece in a 90-degree angle and then position it into a 45-degree and push it down. You need to install 3 screws for the button flex cables. Check your buttons for the click. Let's remove the protective film holding the tape for the wireless charging. Quickly hit the back of the broken device and we will start to remove the wireless charging module. You just have to insert your tool and start to pry out the wireless charging module. The module is out. We have removed everything that is necessary on the old housing. Reinstall the wireless charging pad in the center of the device. Apply some pressure for the tape to stick. And next we are going to reinstall the SIM card module. Hold it with one end and apply all the necessary screws. I believe you need 4 screws to install the SIM card module. And then we are going to reinstall the motherboard. To reinstall the motherboard, you need to push away all the flex cables that you have in your way. Align the motherboard with the position it has to sit in. You should not have any gap between the bottom of the device and the motherboard. And make sure that it is fully seated before you start to apply all the necessary screws that you removed. Carefully check around to make sure that all the flex cables are out of the way. I had a small issue with the flex cable for the power button. There is a kind of plastic that goes on top of that. If you cannot install the motherboard properly due to that plastic, you can remove it and install the motherboard properly. Removing that piece of plastic does not do any damage or any harm to your device. Motherboard fully seated. Start to connect all the flex cables that you have. Carefully push gently on all the flex cables. Time to reinstall the front-facing cameras. Be careful while aligning the front-facing cameras and then realign all the flex cables. We have two flex cables. Realign and reconnect them to the motherboard. Especially pay attention to the flex cable on the side of the motherboard. That one has to be aligned in a certain way. Reinstall the returning plate at the bottom of the motherboard that covers all these flex cables. The next step is to reinstall the rear facing cameras. After their installation, reconnect the two flex cables that comes from the cameras. Next, add the returning plate and apply all the screws that you removed. You should have two screws to install for the cameras. We are at the bottom of the device to reinstall two screws for the returning plate near the SIM card tray. We need to reinstall the battery now. For the battery reinstallation, you need a double-sided tape that you have to install inside the device, and then take the protective film out and carefully place your battery inside the device. So all that has been done. We need to reinstall the returning plate and all the screws that we removed from the motherboard. Connect the battery before we reinstall the returning plate that goes on top of the battery flex cable and other cables. After installation of those screws, we can start up the device and make sure that everything is working. Apply the water-resistant double-sided tape on the frame of the device. The screen aligned, everything aligned with the frame of the device. Apply some pressure and you should hear some clicking noise, which means the frame and the screen are being connected together. Next, add the two screws at the bottom of the device. This is our final product. It looks like new. The device is literally like new. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, like and share, and I will see you next time.